Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 40 Plus Monday Evening Event Speaker Series. I'm your host this evening, Greg Collins, and I'm also the chair of 40 Plus of Greater Washington. This event is sponsored by Fairfax County Economic Development Authority. And so for those of you who are joining us for the first time, or you're not that familiar with who we are and what we do, I just want to give you a brief introduction to us before we start the program this evening. We have been in existence in this area for 69 years, and we're an all volunteer run organization. So that brings its challenges, but it also brings a source of dedicated volunteers to make it work. So we're extremely grateful for their efforts through this time. 40 plus is exactly what it says. We are focusing on it's becoming a very large population now with millennials entering their 40s to provide services that help people find jobs and also to help them in their career transition. So there's a couple of ways that we do that. One is tonight's event. We have various speakers from backgrounds. Some are coaches. Some come from the area of psychology and job counseling. Some are from government and other institutions along that in the private sector as well. So what we're trying to do is just provide resources to you that will help you in your job search. Most of us that attend these have been in the job market for a long time, thus the 40 plus, of course. So we're really targeting experience, and when I think experience, I say established. We've been doing this for decades now, so that's what we try to do, is to provide more resources for you. The other thing that's more direct, we have our career transition course, and we are revamping that course to make it more up to date and more current to meet the needs of the audience. And we will launch that new course coming this fall. And there'll be more details that you'll see coming soon on the website to give you a better idea what that curriculum looks like, length of the programs, things like that. So be on the lookout for that as well. So this evening, if you were listening closely, you would have also noticed that in our speaker's bio on our website, Mike is the vice president for talent at Fairfax County Economic Development Authority. So not only are we grateful for the information he'll share with you regarding available jobs and the effort by Fairfax County Economic Development to promote the region and these jobs, but we're just very proud and thankful to have them continue to be our sponsor over the last year and a half. So once again, Mike wants to keep this also more of a casual kind of conversation. What that means is if you have any questions anytime, feel free to raise your hand, unmute yourself. If you feel more comfortable putting those questions inside the chat, you can do that as well. So those options are open and available to you, either way that you want to do it. Mike has frequently, we have him in a couple times a year because it's always good news. It's one of the fastest growing regions, as you all know, for jobs. So I want to turn it over to Mike and let him tell you the good news about the economic development efforts, the growing efforts, and the growing number of jobs in Fairfax County. So it's all yours, Mike. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate it. I'm a lifelong resident here in the region and spent 30 years in the tech world. I was spent most of that at Microsoft, and I've managed for about half that time. So I'm very familiar with how to the recruiting side, as well as how to get the attention of the hiring manager. So feel free to ask questions around that. And then what I did was I took advantage of a great program Microsoft has. It'll be 4 years in February, so I'm coming up on this 3.5 years plus that I've been out of Microsoft, and they had a great stock retirement program that I'm actually still taking advantage of. All of my unvested stock that Microsoft provides management leaders and others within the company. I'm still vesting as if I'm still there, so it's great. And then I took about almost a year off and was trying to figure out, all right, what to do next with a career. I've got a few kids that are in college, and knew I wasn't going to just totally retire. And I mean, I looked at all kinds of cool, interesting things, and found this opportunity. Our Fairfax County, where I live, where I've lived my whole life, just had launched this talent program funded by the County Board of Supervisors, because they're trying to help our companies retain all the great talent that's here, upskill talent, and bring more talent to the region. Because as I'll share in a minute, there are a lot of jobs out there. So there's a job out there for you. It's just, hopefully I can leave you with some ideas on how to get the attention of the right hiring managers to get your foot in the door with those. So I found this role. I went in, I sat down with Victor Hoskins is his name. That's the president of our Economic Development Authority, and just told that story. It's like, hey, my dad worked till he was 75. I was worried about getting another job myself. I'm like, all right, I'm 55. I was 55 when I left Microsoft, when I hit the magic numbers for retirement. And I'm like, is anyone going to hire me? And I was pleasantly surprised that there's plenty of opportunities out there. And the way I told the story too, just as a, something you might weave into any conversations you had, I made it clear, my grandfather, somehow the people live a long time in my family. Grandfather, he worked almost till the day he died in his 90s. My dad retired at 75. So, I mean, I sat down with the leader of the Economic Development Authority and said, hey, I'm only 55. My dad worked another 20 years. So I'm looking for my next career and really to do something different that really energizes me after 30 years of tech. And, I was always on the sales management side, and that was a little stressful with that quarterly quota that I had for those 30 years. And it worked out. I mean, he still tells me that's part of the reason why he brought me on, has already promoted me like 3 times since I've been here. And I knew nothing about economic development authorities and what it was all about. I knew that I loved the area, and I could tell the story on the value of being here and the benefits of us being in the Washington, D.C. area. So that was a little bit on me. So it looks like we might already have a question. So Ty, you can jump in, and then I'll share some slides going on from there, but feel free to.
I just wondered, like, during your experience, did the organization find you, or did you find them?
I found them, and I'll say too, I'm sure everyone on this call has heard this before, but never burn your bridges. Always have those great networks. I was on a chamber board almost 20 years ago, and one of the people that was on the chamber board with me was at the Economic Development Authority. She's still here and one of the senior vice presidents. So I saw the opening, I pinged her. I'm like, hey, let me come chat with you. So doing my networking and making sure I knew people to find out, all right, how am I going to compete for that role? That helps. So but I sought out the job, and I applied as if I was coming in cold. But of course, I did find someone that I knew to get my foot in the door. And that's what I'll share with you guys too, is if you find something especially in Fairfax County, where about 52% of the jobs are around here, we have the contacts with the recruiters across all of them to at least say, hey, give these folks a chance, to give this person a chance, look at their resume. Because otherwise, a lot of these guys use this artificial intelligence where they're just spitting through all these resumes and they don't even look at them. So if we can help you get your foot in the door to at least have that conversation, to tell that story like I did, I want to help there. So that's, I'm here to try to help. All right, let me go ahead and share and walk through a couple slides, just to hopefully get the conversation going some more. Let me know if you guys can see this deck that I just posted here. Can you see it? Good. All right.
Yeah. Yes.
So I shared this. I can try to even put it in the chat box too, but Greg and Gaddafi there with 40 Plus have this and can send it to you with the hot links. But workinnorthernvirginia.com, what we've done is subscribe to all the openings across the region through an application called Chimera Jobs EQ. They scrape every single job that's out there. If someone posts a job in LinkedIn or Indeed or any other way, we have a site now that'll help you sort by some really creative ways. So I'll share that with you here in a second. I thought I'd start off by just giving you, we just had our market intelligence folks present some of these numbers to us today. So I thought I'd share them because some of it's interesting and relevant, I think, so you get a real feel for what you're up against and what this region looks like from a labor workforce and unemployment, and then even more importantly here in a second, the type of jobs that are out there. So you know really where you might want to focus for that next career. But as you've probably seen on the news, I mean, the bottom right, top left, both of them is showing how our unemployment rates are some of the lowest in the country. We're just sitting at 2.5% across Fairfax and really the whole region. DC a little bit higher. It's covered when I did my screenshot on this morning. That bottom right, 5.2%, one of the larger unemployments, that's LA County. But a big chunk of the country, especially here, unemployment's low. And so just one data point, that's Fairfax County. One more here, and I'll show the region, and then I'll expand out on the region for you. But this one, I think, really helps to see the type of industries that you might want to be thinking about if you really haven't honed in yet. This one still right now is showing Fairfax County. I'm going to expand out here in a second, but again, a big chunk of the openings and the industries of focus are here. There's 39,000, top left white chart here with the 39,000. That's how many type of employment establishments, from a startup with a one person to the Microsofts where I came from that have a couple thousand people right here, and they actually have offices on the Maryland side, DC side, and Virginia side, which a lot of our big companies here have. But those are the numbers of companies. And then if you look at the bottom left, top 10 employment gaining industries account for 55% of the jobs. So that bottom chart there shows the type of industries that are growing right now, and it's pretty diverse. It's really interesting. I mean, you have management of companies and enterprises. So in the management level, you have the technology type roles, employment services, tech. A lot of it's tech jobs, but you still, the Amazons and UPSs and those guys, that express service business is growing like crazy, home healthcare and others. So you'll see it's a wide range of type of jobs out there. So here's expanding out across Northern Virginia. There are 140,000 jobs open right now. And again, for those of you that are sitting in DC or the Maryland side that say, hey, I'm not sure about crossing the river, just know, I'll show you here in a second. Thousands of these jobs are remote, so you can work from home if that's of interest, or go into the office. Either way, our office, by the way, and like a lot of them, are really pushing us hard to come back in about 2 or 3 days a week, and giving us flexibility the other days, Mondays, Fridays, work from home. It's what we're seeing a lot of organizations do now. But then there's a lot of them that are full remote. But if you look, so top left was that 140,000 job posted last month. That's how many jobs are open right now in Northern Virginia. And if you look at the occupations by occupations on the bottom left chart, I think 8 or 9 out of the 10 are tech. It's engineering, software developers, cybersecurity, all of those roles across any type of technology job. That's the majority of the jobs are out here. And that's, this industry and this sector that we're in here in the DC area. If you look at the right side, if you guys, anybody on this call has a security clearance, I mean, there's, you can pick the job through any of these government contractors. I'm on a customer advisory board with security or clearancejobs.com. And it's with all the government contractors, from General Dynamics to the tech companies, Adobe, all kinds. And it's like they cannot find enough people that are either eligible or have active security clearances, because that's what a big chunk of our companies are looking for and need out here. I can't see if anybody's asking a question, so somebody's going to need to come off mute and catch me if you want to ask questions along the way. I'll just keep going, and I'll just walk through. I think I have about 10 slides, and then we can open it up to questions. I can show more on the site, see which direction you want to take the conversation. We are #1 in the country. So cybersecurity, if you have any interest in that, and there's so many different angles to go down and paths to go, but #1 industry in the country for cybersecurity. As far as jobs, they're here. And they're across the gamut of all types of jobs here in our region for cybersecurity. So if there's an interest on that, on our site, workinnorthernvirginia.com, job seeker resource, and we're going to have hot links, so you can just click on this. There's a number of organizations that provide cyber certifications. So you can go apply for that job and say, I was in this industry, but I've received this cyber certification. I'm ready to start and really extend my career. Let me see.
Yeah, Mike, we do have a question here.
All right, I see one. Okay, any thoughts on county being able to sponsor individual for clearances? Good question. The way security clearances works is we're not able to do that here at the county level. A company that you might either intern for, apprentice for, or go to work for has to be the one to sponsor you. Actually, interestingly enough, and any of you can sign up for this course. It's not a credited course to get your 3 credits or whatever, but George Mason University has a class on what you need to do to become, the steps and requirements for a security clearance. So if you're interested in that, you might want to look at that class through George Mason. It's on, I think it's on our site, but you could just do a search, George Mason University security clearance course. And they have a really good course that sort of walks you through what it takes, because it is something where a company has to, or an agency, a company, a department of a organization would need to sponsor you for a security clearance. It's possible to get a security clearance without being currently employed. I do not think so. You'd have to get it through one of those organizations. And there might be one, if you bring some skill sets or if you bring the right background, that might require a security clearance. The company could bring you on without that security clearance and have you doing things that some of the job functions that do not require access to secured material while you go through the process. You can get the entry level or the first steps of a security clearance. I'm told they're trying to clear those up because it's in such high demand now, to get them to you, I think in about a 90-day window. So just know that it's a discussion to have with a hiring company. Let them know that you understand what it takes. You're confident you're eligible with the background checks, U.S. citizens requirement, those type things. Then that's where that George Mason course, or just looking up some of the requirements for security clearance, that could help you. All right. So there's a job out there for everybody. I'm happy to, when I just walk through a couple more slides, we can walk through this and I can sort of get you acclimated to the site. But on that workinnorthernvirginia.com site, again, any job that's publicly posted in DC or Northern Virginia, we don't have them on the Maryland side, but if there's a job posted in DC, District of Columbia, or in Northern Virginia from, Prince William, Loudoun, Arlington, Fairfax, all of our regions here, this site, we think we've done a really good job working with the subscription we have. Jobs EQ allows you to search by keyword or company. For example, like I noted a couple minutes ago, You know, if you're, I want a remote job, type in under keyword remote. And I looked this morning, I think there were 4,700 jobs that were tagged remote work. But if you want to look for a specific company, or if you want to look for a specific type of role, you know, look that up, and there's a really good chance that you're going to have, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of jobs pop up. And the way it works from there is it punches you out to, just on clicking on the job posting, it'll send you right to the posting organization's site to apply, to see more on the opportunity, and then to apply right there. And that's where, if you find something that's interesting, you know, feel free to reach out and say, hey, you know, I just applied for a job at XYZ. If it's in Fairfax County, there's a good chance we have a contact and we could point you to a, you know, an email. Like, you know, we got to be careful, and, you know, and promoting someone, but I'm happy to give you email addresses, say, here's a recruiter. You know, just let them know you've applied, give you a chance to get in there. Cause I know sometimes you might apply for a job and never hear, because it just goes into the black hole. But if you have a contact, maybe you can make a little more headway with it. But that 144,000, that's so many jobs are out there right now. There's a number, go ahead, is another question? Let me see. Most opportunities are computer, software, program related. How do you get a position in the software technicals? You know, if you're sort of a generalist business development. I tell you, for me, you know, for the first, and I was probably halfway through my 30 years, I'm like, how am I going to make it in this tech world? Because I was not a technical person. Wasn't at the beginning, wasn't at the end. And it was everything you're noting there. You know, business development, sales, marketing, every one of these tech companies, they have requirements for all those other type of roles. Now, when it comes to the software program related side, the technical side, you're going to need to go to one of these programs that's either offered through one of the colleges or universities, or there's a number of other solutions out there that that we have on the site here. You'd need to get a certification. There's actually a couple of companies that that are hire, train, and place. So they'll pay you, it's sort of a minimum wage while they train you over a 15-week period and get you certified in up to 50 different certifications. So there's a couple of those companies where they'll pay you a little bit while you're going through the certification, and then they place you with companies like Accenture, a big company. And there's a sort of an arrangement where for that organization, one's called Reviture, one's called Smooth Stack. They're on our site. It's like a 6 month to a year program where you work for the company that certified you, but then you could go to work for one of those companies like Accenture. I see Gerald on here. I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. I see you might have a question.
Hi, yes, I just wanted to give a little testimonial to one of the companies that you referred me to. You, Mike, have been absolutely wonderful in referring us to very good resources, and Reviture is a wonderful resource. I can't say enough good about them. They do train you to be and place you. And they don't require that you have prior knowledge or prior experience. The only glitch for people who are older like myself is that they do require that you have the capability of relocating. And that was, you know, something that I found was very difficult. That's very geared to young people who are out of school. Maybe they got a degree that is not in software development, but they want to get into software development, or maybe they got a degree that they've had a hard time getting in. And I did have quite a few of my colleagues in the class that did have some kind of experience, and I did not, but there were others that did not. And I went through, graduated. They did, you know, place me. Unfortunately, that company, after 3 months, has had some projects, I think, canceled. And so I'm back on the bench. I'm waiting for placement. But Reviture is really great. I recommend anyone that is looking to get some technical expertise, specifically in software development, to be relevant right now with the big wave that we've got in this area, then I think it would be really great to check it out. Just be mindful that they do require that you be willing to relocate after graduation.
Good to know. Thanks for sharing that.
Okay, and thank you, Mike. Thank you so
Sure.
much for the referral.
Sure. All right, let me go over to the next one. So for those of you out there that might be a little more entrepreneurial and think, hey, I want to go start a business. There's an old historic building here in Reston, where I live, that when I was in between, after I left Microsoft, it was Reston's all the new buildings here and high rises and tech companies, but there's an old building from like the 1800s that was a town of wheelies, town hall, and it's just sitting there. And I was like, I want to go buy that and like turn it into a, one of those coffee shop wine places, because it's right in the heart of Reston. So I was considering that. So I couldn't get a hold of the folks to see about buying that building and starting it. And it's a good thing, because that was just before COVID kicked in. So I've probably lost everything. But if entrepreneurship is of interest to you, we have a great entrepreneurship 101 course every single month. And even if you decide you want to go start a business somewhere else outside of Fairfax, just in the region, this course does a really good job in bringing in the small business administration and some guest speakers that have started companies and mentors and those type things. So we do this monthly. I think it's coming up September 13th. So you can click on that link, and if potentially starting some venture on your own is of interest, this is a good way to learn how you go about that. Let me see. Gerald, that was you that was having a note there. All right. Also, we're working with a number of organizations, like we're working with 40 plus here. So, women in technology. Again, we touched on it. It does require a security clearance, but they have a career fair that's targeted for those security clearances coming up here in a few weeks. So just know about that. BDPA, it's a African American STEM association we work very closely with. I'll tell you one that's really interesting is the Greater Washington Apprenticeship Network. And there's not a you might think that's for those start younger, coming right out of school, or just at a younger generation. But I'll tell you, it's really cool. This network, it's managed through the Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce, but it's DC, Maryland, Virginia based companies like Aon and Accenture and Amazon and lots of others that have apprenticeship programs where they will bring you on and skill you up. If you bring the right passion, background, without it being the specific skill set, they can bring you on as an apprentice and pay you while they skill you up. And I was thrilled to see that Accenture, for example, said that they're going to 20% of their entry level posting hirings. And I mean, entry level for Accenture is probably the base salary is $80,000 to start, is 20% are going to be non-college degree apprentices, which is pretty good for a company like Accenture that's a global consulting company. So just know that the Greater Washington Apprenticeship Network, that could be an interesting one to dig into, to see if there's a company that would take someone that has years and years of experience, that might be looking to change careers, that can bring all the values that those of us on this call can bring, that have 30 plus years or 20 plus years of work experience, that can bring that to help mentor others and know that you're committed to that work ethic. There's an opportunity there. we're working with Virginia Values Veterans. It's a program that that has, it really focuses more on the military spouse and veteran community, but we're working there as well to help connect our companies with veterans and military spouse. The Northern Virginia Technology Council has about 500 of the government contractors and every tech company you can think of, from Google to Microsoft to Amazon, and all of them as members. So I'm chairing this Filling the Tech Talent Gap community, where we're constantly trying to bring those folks ideas on getting creative and hiring outside of the norm, to hire folks like this audience right here that might be looking to make a career transition. We're looking, skilled through alternative routes, veterans, military spouse, all kinds of things. We're constantly trying to get in front of these folks because they're never going to fill the jobs they have unless they get creative. And that's the message I'm trying to give on the business side to the hiring companies. If any of you on the call happen to be a military spouse or veteran, we do have a career fair coming up in a couple of weeks. That's going to be, it's 40 companies that have 10,000 openings. I mean, it's everyone from the FBI to Inova for healthcare, George Mason University. It's everybody, but it's really targeted, and they're there as military spouse recruiters. So know that one's really targeted. But if any of you are, please plan to join. I thought I would just, you heard from Greg revamping the 40 plus, transition course. I thought I would just share a couple of best practices that have helped me. And so I just put some little bit of screenshot and a little bit of best practices that I've learned through my experiences, both as a hiring manager and then also making that transition. Even while I was still at Microsoft, I would alter my resume as I was internally interviewing to try not to show my age. And even how long, wouldn't highlight it. I stopped highlighting how long I was at Microsoft because I was there for so long. Because they're just always looking for different angles or different, younger folks that I felt. So, and I know you guys, probably a lot of you feel that same way. So here's some of the things that I've learned. And by the way, we had lots of training on this when I was at Microsoft. Microsoft owns LinkedIn, for those of you that aren't aware. So we got a lot of training on LinkedIn as we acquired them before I left for a number of years. But you can see a couple of things I want to highlight. Try to limit resumes. It doesn't matter, those of you and those of us that have worked for a long time, try not to go back to, the first day you started working and put that on your resume. Go back to, go back 20 years, go back to something that's a little more relevant, maybe a little longer, but try not to go back, to every single job you've had throughout a 20, 30-year career. That really just emphasizes what you've done diverse wise across your working, spectrum. Remove college graduation dates if you have those, high school graduation dates from the resumes, because this is mine, and I just removed the graduation date. And then, the question I think Ty asked a little bit earlier is, did the county come to me? Did I find them? Put your volunteer experience and anything that might help you with networking on LinkedIn, and potentially on your resume if there's room for that. But I have on LinkedIn, there's a volunteer section on LinkedIn. Anything you've done volunteer wise, put it out there, because you never know what type of connection that's going to bring you. Because for me, being a board member at the Reston Chamber, as you can see there, I left that 9 years ago, and somebody I was on that board with was a senior executive at Reston, or at County Economic Development Authority, where I am now. So I made that connection when that job came open and said, hey, I want to come in and talk to you. So make sure you leverage, volunteer experience and anything that could help you with networking. Go ahead, question or comment?
Mike, I had a comment regarding that. And some people told me to take it off my resume. Other people told me to leave it on. The fact that I'm an Eagle Scout, two different people that interviewed me said that jumped out on the resume.
I mean, me personally, the only people I've ever known, I mean, anyone I've ever known that is an Eagle Scout is a high achiever and somebody I admire. No different than, being a veteran. So I would be one that would advocate for saying leave on Eagle Scout. You learn Gerald Ford when he died, he was an Eagle Scout. I've got a friend that's a very successful retired colonel that's a United Airlines pilot, Eagle Scout. So it's just, I think I would really admire that and would encourage you to keep it on there. Last thing I want to make sure I don't miss is make sure on your resumes, one thing is that I looked for, and we had it instilled in us, is to make sure that you have on your resumes the impact that you made in that role and what you did at that previous company in your resumes, not just activity. Meaning, don't just put, I was on this team that did this. It would be, what was your role that delivered results for that team you were on? As you can see some of them that I put on here on, drove 96% of the revenue through this organization I led, or, started this organization and took it from 7 million to 100 million. So you want to make sure you sort of put what your impact is to show, again, that it's not just activity, but it's the impact you're making. There you go. I've got through my slides. This is so you'll have this. You've got my information. You want to follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram. On Instagram, we just started highlighting and posting a new job by a different company every single day on the workinnorthernvirginia.com. And again, you can go on there and find, do a search for remote jobs, whatever might be of interest to you. But you're going to have this information. We're going to get it to you. Like I started with, there's a job out there for you. I'm very confident about it because there's 140,000 of them in this region. I know it's not easy sometimes, but don't give up. I mean, I tried for me, it was a year, and I just sort of lucked into this role. I feel still like, I totally changed careers from sales management and leadership at Microsoft to working for a county. That's a big change. When I looked at a lot of things in that year journey between, I was lucky I had the time and the means with that stock program I'm on to do it. But still, it was like, all right, am I going to find what I'm looking for? And I wasn't sure after a while, but I found something, and it's rewarding. It's fun, and it's, it helps pay the bills, and has good benefits, and it's rewarding. So there's something out there for you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing. I can share again, and we can walk through the site if you want. We can just have an open dialogue. We can give you some time back. But the deck itself, so Gaddafi's saying the deck will be sent out here in the next 24 hours that I have. So you guys will have that. And let's see, is a contractor versus an FTE better for strategy for hiring? I have a friend that's doing the 1099 contractor side. I'd say the benefit for all of us on this call, that on contractor versus an FTE, it's the flexibility, of when I want to work, where I want to work, going into the office or not. You have more flexibility, I think, when you're a contractor and a 1099 than you would as a full-time employee. But on the flip side, you're not, you've got to keep up to pay those taxes and, on your own. There's no health care associated with it. They can, it's probably easier for them to cut the cord from a contractor side. But, and then if the question is more in line with contractor that sort of gets my foot in the door to get the job, that's absolutely an opportunity there. Friend of mine that's doing it right now, and he's the one doing it at a high dollar figure. They're already working on offering him the FTE role, which he really didn't go in looking for. But I think that you go in and you show the value you bring. It's almost like the apprenticeship model, but this is a contractor angle. that is absolutely a good strategy.
So just to reiterate that, Mike, so the idea of working for a federal contracting company versus maybe a full-time position in the government, that was my experience once, that I was able to, it was less difficult to get in with a contractor than it was with the government at the time.
It can be, absolutely, because the contractor, if they, you know, they're always worried about, because my whole career too, by the way, was primarily in the public sector. So we were always at Microsoft selling to the federal government or to state and local government or to universities. So we worked with a lot of the government contractors. They're always worried about losing the contract. If they can't fill the roles they have from an award they receive from the federal government, there's an issue and they might lose their contract. So they're much faster at filling those roles than the federal government might be on their own. So it's absolutely an angle to take that could get you connected and introduced, because you're subcontractor to the federal government. If you want to get a job in that within the federal government, for example, or even a state government, local government like I'm in, a contractor gets you connected and introduced to them, and next thing you know, you've made that network and you found an opportunity to work full-time for that agency. I can't believe I was pleasantly surprised when I started there. It was probably the first couple of months. They're like, okay, you know, after 5 years, you're vested. I'm like, what does that mean? At Fairfax County, after 5 years, you're vested to start a pension plan. I'm like, I had no clue. I'm like, I figured I'm not looking for that 20-year, you know, government pension that was always in my mind. My dad worked for the federal government for 25 years. But there's a number of local governments and agencies around here where you might tap in some benefits you weren't even aware of, coming at this from this 40+ angle. So I'm putting my 5 years in minimum. I'm gonna get my small pension. That's gonna be great.
Yeah, I also wanted to throw out the notion of leveraging a different level of government. Like, for example, I work for state of Maryland right now, but there's going to be a new governor. I'm not sure where things are going. So I would speculate out loud that working for, say, a state level could be helpful for getting into a county or some other level of government.
Yeah. The person that Victor Hoskins that I report to, he worked at the cabinet level on the Maryland side for the governor a number of years ago, worked in the administration within the DC government, then was over at Arlington County. That network from the state level and the local levels in this region has a really good network that can allow you to move and to find that specific opportunity you're looking for. Gerald, you have something else to add?
Yes, it's kind of focused on Repo and Company, other organizations I was seeing in your slides, and I visited your website that do training. Do you work closely with them? Because when I was in the phase that they call staging, once you graduate, before you actually get hired, and in that 2-week period, I saw that there were close to 200 graduates waiting to be placed. I'm going to go back to that, but I wanted to find out what is the relationship that you might have, that you might be able to work very closely with the graduates to serve the local needs.
Yeah, I have worked with both the companies that we're talking about here, Repo and SmoothStack, who have the presence across the whole region. Both of them are national. They're both headquartered here in Fairfax County, but they place nationally. which is why Gerald noted earlier that you have to be willing to relocate potentially. But I'd say, that might be a good discussion to have with them as you're entering the program, knowing they have so many certifications. And one of the things they look to us to do is they want us to try to help introduce them to the companies to sign more subcontracts so that as those folks are graduating like yourself, they can place them. And so we of course can't promote, we can just educate our companies and say, hey, here's another option for you to try to fill those jobs. I mean, there's companies around here like Booz Allen has 2,000 open jobs right now. Leidos has 1,500 jobs open. Those are, consulting services, government contractors. They're never going to fill those roles unless they try to do creative hiring, like we're talking about through a Reviture or Smooth Stack, apprentice programs, really aggressively growing their internships, hiring those that might have been skilled through alternative routes, as we say. There's an organization called Opportunity at Work that promotes skilled through alternative routes. You might not have a degree in a 4-year degree, or you might not have the degree that's being requested or asked for or as a requirement for a job. And we're trying to get the companies to reduce those requirements because they're missing 2/3 of the country. Now, we've also found that a lot of that, our government contractors have their hands tied. We're trying to educate our local officials and federal officials to say at the federal Department of Labor level, you need to reduce those requirements. In Maryland, the state has removed the requirement for a 4-year degree, for example, for a state job in Maryland. They haven't done that at the federal level. They haven't done it here in Virginia yet. But a lot of companies have, unless it's a requirement for them to fill that role based on a federal contract that they've been awarded.
Okay. Is there, you already have an ongoing relationship where you're feeding in these opportunities to Reviture, for example, I imagine?
Well, I and a lot of us on our team recommend Reviture and Smooth Stack both to our companies on a regular basis. We don't say one versus the other. They're both, in my mind, they both do similar things. They both hire, train, and place in technical certifications, but like up to 50. So it's a lot of different things. It might be a specific product like Adobe, or it could be a cyber certification, or it could be Amazon, or it could be lots of other things. And so we recommend that our companies consider leveraging programs like that, and companies like those two every day.
Okay. I was curious about that because it was amazing to see 200 people on a call, on a Zoom call, and all, waiting to be placed. So we need your help.
Yep. We're constantly doing that, and we'll do it on these Northern Virginia Tech Council calls that we have, and Nova Chambers started a workforce program too. So we're constantly trying to get out there and educate our companies on getting creative on their hiring strategies versus just this skill set, this degree, this number of years of to meet a requirement for a specific job. We think we're making progress, but there's still work to be done.
Okay, thank you.
We've got another question in the chat there, Mike.
What about those who have a degree, maybe 2, but not in tech related industry? What are options or job opportunities like Fairfax, Northern Virginia? That's again where I think if you find a job, or if you find an opportunity that looks interesting to you through searching for jobs, I'd say apply for it, and then find an angle to get, to have the opportunity to talk to the hiring organization about the skill sets you bring through your work discipline, the fact you have 2 degrees, you know, other work experience that's out there that that can bring value to that role other than just this particular, you know, tech related background. And I can guarantee you a lot of them are willing and able to have those discussions and take a chance and bring you on. I know I've touched on some previous calls, but one thing I've done, and I still do it today, every day, is if I'm trying to reach an organization, just to engage them for whatever reason, but if you're applying for a role, and if we don't have a contact, if you can't find a way through your network to find someone there, go on LinkedIn and search that company and see all the different names out there. You could even do a title. If it's, you know, Microsoft, you know, director of whatever, and names will pop up. Send them a message, try to LinkedIn with them, say, hey, I've applied, you know, see if you find a way you might be connected to somebody through a second and third connection to say, hey, I know somebody here. I want to see if you can help me, you know, find the hiring manager. Just point me to an email address for that hiring manager so I can have the opportunity to talk to that hiring manager about the role. Because I will tell you, as someone that managed a long time in a big tech company, if I would talk to folks that came to me through whatever means, through and receiving resumes. You might, you know, those recruiters, they might, you know, block you. You might never hear from them because you didn't meet that specific requirement, but find that hiring manager and try to get in through that angle. And you know, I probably hired more people just through networks and people coming to me than I received through the recruiters that brought them to me. And I know through my peers, because we would have, you know, lots of management meetings, that was more the norm than the exception.
So Mike, is a follow-up to that. When you mentioned the job that you have now, going after that job and the connection you had made, and you emphasized like, hey, my family works, they work their whole lives, their 70s and 90s, and that's my work ethic too. That's what I want to do. Beyond that, because I still know stories of people who are bouncing up against ageism. So I'm asking, what other advice would you offer, you know, that audience tonight? Because it seemed that whatever that trend changed X amount of years ago, that experience wasn't as important as getting someone for cheaper, or you're trying to do both. But in our age group, what more tips could you advise for us to overcome that?
Yeah, what I would say to that, without, you know, I told my story and my family works a long time, but I'd say, you know, the message you want to give is going to be, I bring work ethic, I bring experience I can share with your younger generation, the younger folks that you're bringing in that might have that specific skill set that you need. I'm going to be more committed to this role, and you want to at least commit for, you know, 3 to 5 years. I would not come into a conversation with someone and say, I want to do this for a year or two. No one's going to take the chance and spend the cycles on that. But if you say, you know, 5 years plus, even if you know in the back of your mind, I'm only going to be here for 3 or whatever it might be, but and that might be what you think going in. And you know, I'm almost 3 years into the county here, and I don't know that I thought I'd be there when I first started, but I'm enjoying it. I think it's a great opportunity, and I plan to stay for a while.
Okay.
Ty?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, when you do your messaging, would you do that in a cover letter, make that known, or would you do that during the interview? How would you handle that in terms of telling them you're going to stay? Or in my instance, maybe shooting for a job that isn't as high a level that I had in the past?
I mean, I would recommend that you do that during an interview in person, or over the phone, however the interview takes place. and try to, like I showed on the resume, on my sort of LinkedIn resume examples, try to shield as best you can the age. Because that was what I've done. That's what I think. If you can do a pretty good job at it by not putting, your high school, college graduation dates or work experience back for 30 years. I've seen lots of folks do a really good job of making it look like they're a lot younger than they are. And then if you get down and they're looking at something and it's got your birth date, or, they see that you're not 40 years old, or that's when you have that conversation. It's like, hey, look, I want you to be aware I'm bringing work experience and work ethic that I'm not sure we're seeing that commitment from, a younger generation. I'm bringing that, and I can help that with the culture of this company, the culture to help, instill that in others that you're bringing up through the ranks at whatever organization it is you're applying for. Gerald?
Something that I saw in my experience at Reviture is mentoring. They're looking for people that are willing and interested in mentoring. And once you have quite a bit of experience and you're exposed to people who don't, you actually do see that opportunity to mentor, from just general tips and experiences to how to interview, to actually just life experience and how to take things in stride, that kind of thing.
Yep. That's a really good point.
Any more questions for Mike? Okay.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Like I said, Gaddafi's put it on here. We'll have the recording here on YouTube. You guys will get the presentation I have with all the hot links, so you can go see the site. You've got my email address, so please reach out if you have additional questions, or if you identify a company. Happy to help. I want to do it. I've always taken that mindset. I'm doing it right now for a lot of my friends' kids that are older than mine. I'm bending over backwards to help them, because I'm hoping they'll do the same when my two kids get through with school. I've got one that's a senior in college and one that's a sophomore. So I'm like, all right, I need you guys to help them.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, Mike, thanks so much for your time this evening. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Good luck, everybody. There's something out there for you. I know it.
Thank you.